There's the PUDs, which are like variances. Okay, they're discretionary permits that are handled within the department. And then there's subdivisions, which are purely ministerial. Council never sees those. The same with PUDs. So I just want to be sure that you understand that there's different levels of review and there's different levels of input. The subdivision is the most precise, because it requires precise surveying. It requires precision because what it does, it ends up describing a property that has to be recorded, and that goes into a deed that transfers onto somebody else. So it's ministerial. It's pretty precise. The PUD is a discretionary permit, like a variance, that is handled within the department. And I don't believe that it's a perfect process. I think we've talked about ways that could be improved, because that way it provides a better link between what the department actually approves as a PUD that translates into the subdivision. So if you get kind of a junky PUD, or PUD that wasn't well thought out, or the decision on that wasn't that good, if it translates down to the subdivision, then it just makes messy legislation all the way down. So I'm not adverse to fixes to those particular processes. And then for the rezonings, the applications that you folks see, staff field inspects every single one. Every single one.
Thank you. I tend to agree that we can do some fixes too, especially the approvals of PUDs that would require site visits and other pieces there that would, I think, be a good step towards this direction. Again, I think this board for bringing this to public discussion, and I think we can.
I think over time I work with, we've had discussion with several even, changes that you want to do with it, etc. So
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Yap. Ms. Willard?
Hi, yeah, a couple comments. I think one of the problems that I have is where it would be every lot. I know I've handled, let me just say, one where it was, and I'm talking about it, 400 acre parcel being divided to 200 acre parcels. I wouldn't want to be spending taxpayer money to go out there. On the other hand, I take a look at Puaco 1010, which actually came to the action committee as a subsequent PUD, and one of the big arguments was, well, you really ought to go along with this PUD because you should see what a disaster it is as a subdivision if you go out and look at the land. And I'm going, well, why did we allow what even the department person was describing? I'm not sure they used the word disaster, but it's not good. And I would have really liked somebody to go out there and see where these ravines are and where this is, and realize the erosion that's going to now result down on the other side, in Puaco. So, if there was something here that wasn't everything, and I was trying to think, where appropriate, or what language, I would be supportive of something that actually would provide for that under some conditions. I wouldn't favor an every, because just not cost efficient. So I'm not sure I'm going to vote in favor of this, but I support the idea, and I see some real disasters where that isn't done. I do want to say that I disagree with you in terms of just characterizing subdivisions as ministerial, and in some places it's considered ministerial, in some places it's discretionary. In my view, is there discretion involved? And that's really the ultimate question, and there is discretion involved there in terms of what is permitted. So It may be there's a continuum, and it's more ministerial than, say, the zoning. And in zoning, we say, really, should it be in this category or that? But what tends to happen is, well, what's the use that you're planning on? It's not just what category you're going in, it's, Waimea 2020 plan, and should be this commercial or residential? No, well, exactly what are your plans for use? So I think each of these categories tends to be, multifaceted. So I also have, in terms of your discussion of preliminary plan versus final plan, back in, I think it was 2006, there was a court case and the County of Hawaii lost based on not providing enough information to the public so they could comment on the preliminary plan. I'm trying to think what the name of that case was, with Chris Ewan, and he came in, Isabel was in for Kona at that time. And he said, we need to eliminate this requirement so that all of these other subdivisions we're holding up aren't compromised. And I, challenged that and said we need to do certain things to allow for better comments so the public knows what's going on. If you look at this and you look at the code, it doesn't say show the improvements in that preliminary section. That requirement was taken out. The director then said, okay, I need you to take care of this, and I'll go on and deal with what Margaret says at a later date, and it will never happen. But I do think looking at what's in the preliminary versus final is an important issue, and something that I would like, I'm not going to harp on it now, but it really is at the preliminary stage that I feel that's where the public or the action committees can come in and speak to this, and that it's good to have as much information as possible at that level. So anyway, I just want to make those comments, and let me say I would support something that provides for site visits, but not necessarily at every one. So I'm not, if I was diligent, I'd probably have an amendment here to put in, and I don't have one. But I'm going to yield at that point. So I don't know whether Ms. Ford wants to comment on this and respond to my.
Just a comment that the code requires a posting of notice on every property that has a subdivision application. And then we also post a notice in the newspaper of all of the applications that are pending.
Okay, but a lot of times those notices aren't where everybody can see and know what's going on. I can give you some examples of that, and it isn't something that I just feel it, when it gets to the action committees, that should be where you get that kind of discussion and have that information. But anyway, that's on another subject. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Willie. Anybody else for round one? Ms. Ford?
What I'm about to say, I mean with all due respect to all council members, but I'm really discouraged. Because when somebody else on the council brings forward a bill, and I don't quite agree with it, or I think something needs to be tweaked a little, I write an amendment. And I've always been willing to compromise, always, on my bills or anyone else's. But what I see here is when I have this bill, everybody trashed it at the committee meeting. This is the first time I've heard anybody say anything about, well, maybe if it didn't say every single subdivision, we could handle it. Nobody wants to do any amendments to my bill. And I think, I'm not sure if we vote this down today, is it a dead one because it came with a negative recommendation? Okay. Thank you. Sorry, I had to check the chair. Goes up one more time. Okay. But if it gets a negative vote at council, the first time it's going to go down, right? Okay. Just wanted to clarify that. It's not like I'm unwilling to compromise on anything. And I look at the comments from the planning commission, and I see they all gave it the thumbs down, and then they refused to put the director's comments in on how something could be improved. I find that really, really distressful. You know, that's what they're supposed to be doing. They're supposed to say, well, we don't like this, and we recommend that, and by the way, the director says, hey, have you considered this? That would have been a much better bill if I couldn't have done it all in this one bill, but that's information that I think the council is entitled to. I value the director's opinion. No one always agreed, but I do value your opinion. But, you know, I look to this council, if I've missed something, then I look to my team here to say, Brenda, I think you missed something, and maybe you should, either I'll do it, me personally, if you tell me about it here at council, or you're willing to do it on your own. I write lots of amendments for everybody else's bills, and most of them get accepted because we're supposed to be working as a team. I write a bill, nobody does anything to help me with my bills and tweak them, and then they trash my bills. So I'm really distressed about that. If this council wants me to put some language in here so you don't have to go out every single time, but I'm willing to listen, just give me some ideas what that language should be. I'll talk to you too, Mr. Director Kuhnhauer. I'll amend it. I don't mind amending things. But it's really, really distressful to do all the work and you catch something and just say, let's just kill our bill. I yield.
Thank you, Ms. Ford. We're going to go to Ms. Poindexter, then Mr. Onishi, and then back to Ms. Willie.
And, you know, I feel bad that Councilmember Ford feels that way, but, you know, I'm not making my decisions based on because it's your bill and you helped me with mine, or I don't recall any of that happening with me anyway. And I remember some things maybe council members did not agree with me, and that's why we work as a team. We agree to disagree on things. And what I heard from Councilmember Eoff is that she's currently working on something which she cannot share because of the sunshine violation. So I hear the discussion that to me is moving in a positive direction, that some people are looking to address this. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a bill that I write and that I feel Margaret or Zendo, you guys should help me out with that so my bill can pass. It's not about me. It's about what needs to be done overall. And it doesn't matter who it is. But what I'm hearing in the discussion is I'm hearing that, you know, we want to work on some things that, you know, PUD versus what is here, what may not work well in this bill, but that would work better with maybe that something Karen is bringing forward, which she can of course discuss. But we talked about a little bit about that, about where should that be visitation. You talked about that too, Councilmember Willie, about you don't see it being in that that every parcel, and this may bring some problems. So it's not about, you know, with no disrespect to you, Councilmember Ford, it's not just about you and your bills feeling, you know, we all have a voice, and yes, as a team we vote on what we need to do, and yes, we are a team and we can agree to disagree. So I just want to say that I just want to hear more too, and I feel with what I've heard already, I don't feel comfortable with voting on this bill, but looking forward to more of seeing things happen more with the PUD side and some other things come forward. So I just don't want the public to think that we're not working as a team or ganging up, and you know, and we all agree that, you know, our expressions and what we show on camera. I've had emails come forward and say, you know, watch your expressions because you're caught on camera and all, and the public is perceiving that. I just don't like that, the public's perception to be a not good one, that we're not having our own voices. But anyway, so I'll yield at this time.
Thank you, Ms. Poindexter. Mr. Onishi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had a question for Ms. Ford, if she could answer this for me, please.
Ms. Ford?
Have you checked with the planning department when you came up with this, and did they give any recommendations about this amendment?
Not to me, they gave it to the planning commission.
Well, I understand, but did you work with them?
I have talked to Director Camillo and told him I'm not happy with this. So the only discussion we had is, I am not happy with the site visits not being made, that's it.
Okay, so to me, if you could have a dialogue with them, then maybe this amendments that you're trying to do, we could pass. But if you're not gonna have a dialogue with them, because we're hearing that the director doesn't feel that this is necessary, that he has other concerns, and so you could have came up with something else. But not working with the administration, and I've seen this in the past, where a lot of bills came up, and there's no dialogue, and so that's why as council members, for myself, for like almost like 6 years, I have a hard time, because then we have something that a council member wants, that you want, but then on the other side, the administration doesn't feel that there is a relationship, or that is like the timing or the request is not proper. And so I always see that, and it's a trend. And so that's why I guess it's sometimes hard. But to me, if there was more dialogue between you and the departments, I think that would be much better. And then we could come and pass certain bills that you come up with. So that's just a suggestion that maybe you can do in the future. Thank you.
Mr. Onishi?
Yeah, I did after.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
This will be relatively quick. As the director said, there's actually three buckets. There's the rezonings, there's the subdivisions, and there's PUDs. I chose subdivisions to start with. I'm not saying PUDs and rezonings shouldn't have changes. I'm glad I heard Ms. Eoff say she's going to deal with that, because I thought I was going to have to go through all three. I just picked this one to start. I just picked one bucket to start with.
And I understand that, but the thing is, like, maybe it could be only on maybe certain sizes or something like that, or it could be exempt where at the certain parcels you don't have to, but to do all, I mean, it's not what, like Ms. Willie mentioned, it's not feasible. And so that's where I think that dialogue needs to be, and that's how you guys can work out with something good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Onishi. Ms. Willard?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, and let me say, I have amended some of Ms. Ford's bills, and I understand her frustration, because she does do a great deal of work and proposes difficult issues, and we don't necessarily have what is a good answer. And when I gave it some thought, I wasn't quite sure how to define when to do it and when not, and I really didn't come up with a good answer. You know, I would be willing to postpone this, and at least if we were to change your language from shall conduct a site visit to may conduct a site visit, and we have these items where you've you know, done a good job of delineating sort of the kind of issues that are sort of where it would be helpful. That would put the discretion to the director, and maybe at some point we're able to refine that better, but I think that would be a starting point. So I just asked the director, I mean, basically all we would be doing is giving you the authority and sort of having something in here, and maybe also promote people to request one. Hey, isn't this an appropriate time? So, I mean, if others on the council have brainstormed and thought of a good way to say which ones are and which ones aren't, I would be happy to look at that further stage, but at least perhaps we could get this language in here with a may. And I do feel, just from my experience as dealing with subdivisions, it's often where the problems do arise, where it's, so that's, I'm gonna yield to comments, but I would, or maybe I should just say I'd like to postpone this till.
If you're gonna do that, I would like to
Yeah,
comment before that.
I have no
happens to close it.
problem with that, and just allow me the opportunity then to make that motion.
Okay, that's fine. Is there anyone else so I'll do that. I'll make my basically closing statement, and then Ms. Willie, you can have the floor back to make that. Is there anyone else wishing to speak before that happens? Okay, thank you. Okay, I think this is an interesting one, because we move from what we see as the rezones that are coming to us, right? So this is the process in which they get the entitlements. This is where we say, here's the density that you have, does this fit in this area? The person leaves here with or without entitlements. Okay, they either get approved or they don't get approved. If they leave here with entitlements, we approve it, they are now entitled to do this. We have, as a council, or whatever the body is, says, you can now have X amount of lots on whatever size of property it is, right? So now that moves over to the administration. It becomes, at that point, to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, Director Primo, it becomes their right, it becomes their property right, it becomes their entitlement. So if they have a 10-acre parcel that is zoned for potential of 5 lots, they have the right entitlement to come in and say, I'm going to subdivide my property, and they have to go through all of the steps that we have to go through, posting of signs, etc., having the right roadblocks in there, whatever it is, go through Department of Public Works, all of those things to make sure that curbs, gutters, sidewalks, etc. But as far as their entitlement is concerned, they're entitled to be able to subdivide that property into those lots as long as they can fit it within the criteria that fits there, drainage, etc. If there's a flooding issue, it's still possible, but there's other considerations that are made. They have to build it at a certain height level, etc. So that being the case, it takes it out of this realm that we tend to kind of cross over into like the PUD. PUD is not an entitlement. PUD is a variation, is a culmination of variances. It is the department being able to say, yeah, we can work with you on this, we can work with you on that. When we're talking about a subdivision, it is an entitlement, and I think the further we go to take away something that is out of the confines of what they have to do, posting a signage, complying with this department, etc., we could be potentially breaking the law in that, because as a council, they're entitled to do X, and then we'd be over there saying, go do a site visit. If you see something that is going to potentially be subjective, could potentially open up this massive can of worms, and that's where it's supposed to be handled at the rezone, at the entitlement process, which is why they do make the site visits. In all my experience in the planning commission, every time everyone has had a site visit, you're looking at it, you're trying to get the best view that you possibly can. Furthermore, if you're only going to do it on large subdivisions, is a person from the planning department really going to go out there and traverse through 100 acres? No. They're not going to find all the problems. They're going to drive to the property, they're going to look at it and see what they can see, take pictures what they can, but we'd almost be having to hire like a survey type crew to go through and traverse this property and say, yes, there's a ravine in the middle of it, there's this here, there's this. That's not, I just don't think that's our place to get into. We need to look at that from an entitlement standpoint, but once they're entitled, it's their lawful right to be able to do that as far as they can within our code. And I just don't see how having a site visit would improve that. Now, a site visit on a PUD is a completely different story, because there's changes that are occurring. It's not an entitlement, a property right. It would be the same thing almost as saying, before you can build your house, before you can even submit your plans or whatever, I have to go do a site inspection. No, you do the site inspection while your house is being built. You're entitled to build a home on your piece of property. The same thing as if they leave here or the property's already entitled to do a subdivision, they're entitled to do that. And I think that's where these lines get crossed over, especially when it comes to subdivision. So I don't think that this is necessary. It would be actually to me, to open up a larger can of worms in some of the other areas that we talked about. I do think there's a lot of room for improvement on there. I don't even think fixing this by saying if it's a subdivision of X size, we have to have somebody that is a complete professional in that field to make those determinations. And those could be a multitude of determinations, you know what I mean? And it's just going to get messy. So I personally don't think this is the right place for this. With that, I will yield. Ms. Willie, if you want to make the motion, you're more than welcome to.
Okay. And I think everyone's brought up a lot of legitimate points, and this is really a matter of balancing these various legitimate points. Just in my experience, I've dealt with a number of
Ms. Willie, I closed it out. You can either make the motion to postpone or not.
I want to make one correction. Not everything gets rezoned. It might be a certain subdivision occurring in what's already rezoned. Okay, Ms.
Correct.
Manager, I'm moving on it. Okay, so I would like to make a motion to postpone this matter and bring it up, and with the intent of making an amendment, I would make an amendment as discussed before. And I will consult with the director, we can designate the date or at the call of the chair. All right,
That
I'll
would be-
say at
that
the
would be
call.
up-
Go ahead,
That's up to you to call the chair.
call of the chair.
Okay, so you've made a motion to postpone this to the call of the chair.
Second.
Okay, it's been seconded by Mr. Onishi. Any discussion on the postponement? Ms. Witham?
No, I just, encouraging it, I think I said enough to explain why. If you'd like me to restate or anyone has a question, I will, but otherwise I'm up for, let's just go for a vote.
Okay. Let's do a roll call vote on postponement. Mr. Clerk?
Ms. Yao,
Aye.
Ms. Ford,
Aye.
Mr. Legat,
Aye.
Mr. Kanuha.
Aye.
Mr. Nishi,
Aye.
Ms. Poindexter,
Aye.
Ms. Willie,
Aye.
Mr. Yoshimoto.
Aye.
Chair Card,
No.
Chair Card, you have 8 ayes and 1 no.
Very good. This is now postponed to the call of the chair. I'll look forward to sending that through to me. Take a motion to adjourn.
adjourn. Second.
Got a motion by Mr. Kanuma, a second by Mr. Yoshimoto. All those in favor of adjournment, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting is powered. We're adjourned.
Yes.
Yeah, Wall Street and council.